Greetings, viewers, and welcome to yet another episode of Healing Families with Pastor Zandi. I am happy to be with you today, and I'm happy for the privilege of just sharing on things that will hopefully revolutionize the way we are doing life in our relationships and consequently bring healing to the children that we're raising and again to the societies that they become contributors in. We are continuing with our question and answer session, and to kick us off, we are starting with the question, what if your spouse is nice to people but unkind to you? I've seen this a lot in Christian circles where people posture and sound amazing in church. You know, they sound very nice to other people in church, and you watch them become extremely hostile when addressing their spouses. I've never heard of bigger foolishness. Your spouse is your world. Your spouse is your portion in this life. Doesn't get better than that. Should anything happen to you, the person who'll be there no matter what, who is on your side no matter what, whether you're doing, when you do well for both of you. You know, the person who is you, essentially, is your spouse. So it's really a foolishness to be unkind to your spouse and to be kinder to people who are not as invested in your life as your spouse is, who can never be as invested, you know. And I think it's a cultural thing. I don't know where it stems from, but it's very, very easy in our society for the African man, even the African woman, to be casual and just very, I don't know, weird in how they relate with their spouse as compared to outsiders. Take, for example, in the case of women, you find that women will reserve their china, their best trays, their best everything for when the pastor is visiting or when visitors come. But they live with their spouse every day and they're not able to serve them their best meals on their best china. I think that's ridiculous. I think the person who deserves all of that more than anyone else because of the place that they have in your life is your spouse. I think they're the ones who are deserving of that. And your spouse is the one who deserves your kindness. So I basically want to just say to the spouse out there who finds that it's easier to suddenly be kind and all warm and nice to other people, and yet you are rude when you speak to your spouse, that please stop that. It's not going to benefit you. Those people cannot do for you what your spouse is going to do for you when the time comes. So show your spouse that they are the priority. Show them in how you talk to them. There's a thing that we do in my family where no matter how busy I am, when my husband calls, I take his call. And it's just a simple rule that I cannot miss his call. If I'm sitting with the king of Eswatini and my husband calls, I will call him because the king is just my king. He is not my husband. What that means is my husband always takes precedence over everything, and the news that he might have for me could have a bearing on my life. If he calls me, he's probably talking about our children. He's talking about things that actually matter to me more than anything else. So I prioritize him. I may not be able to take calls, but when my husband calls, I'm taking that call. And the same is true for him. My husband knows that even when I serve and I have to serve people, I prioritize him, and it's got nothing to do with maybe culture and tradition. It's got everything to do with an attitude of honor for him. I honor him, I respect him, and I regard him more highly than anyone that I know. So I prioritize him. Before I can attend to anyone, I attend to him. And that, I believe, is a big contributor to the quality of our relationship. I encourage you, you want to be happily married, begin to prioritize your spouse. Don't be unkind to your spouse. Okay. Next question. Is it okay to continue with strife publicly? For example, if we have conflict, but because we're rushing to an appointment, we don't resolve it before leaving, is it okay to show that we are not doing well? Okay. This is a very good question because this happens a lot of times. You find that you go to an engagement or you go to a couples meeting or a wedding, and then for some reason you are able to pick up that vibe between a certain couple. Sometimes you actually become very uncomfortable because you can see that they are being very awkward around each other, and therefore they are making it awkward for everyone else. There's a Western saying that says, don't air your dirty laundry in public. Basically, my belief is that we all have our own issues. So it's very annoying to be forced to deal with your issues. We have our own fights, but we don't bring them to you. We don't annoy you and upset you by coming into your space and introducing that atmosphere of animosity between the two of us. It's an irresponsible thing to go and behave like you are in strife in public. So what if we are not able to deal with the conflict to its fullest and resolve it because we have an urgent meeting or appointment that we need to go to? Shelve it, put it to the side, and then be civil with each other. I'm not saying be pretentious and be all lovey-dovey, hugging, kissing, cuddling, because that if you pretend, then also you're building your relationship on a lie, on pretense, and it will catch up with you in a very negative way. It's important to be authentic, to be real. But being real doesn't mean you must be rude and foolish. There's a difference. We are real, but we will be civil in front of people. We will talk to each other like a couple because we are a couple. There's no need to be dramatic, especially publicly. Also, by the time you reconcile and you've dealt with your differences, your relationship is a joke to those who are watching because they are waiting until, you may declare your undying love for your partner, and people will just say yes until the next fight, until the next big fight. You've made yourselves a joke as a couple if you choose to go out there and misbehave. So we all have issues. We all have times when we are in conflict, but we don't go and make a public show of it. We leave it where it belongs, in the privacy of our rooms. We'll go back there and we'll take it up. When we go out, we act like normal adult human beings. We relate well with each other. We're not going to be extremely affectionate and pretentious. We're not going to do that, but we can be civil to each other. And it's very important for every couple to learn this lesson. The next question, how am I supposed to react when I am inadvertently having my needs met by someone else in an area where my spouse is dismally failing? So I have a need, and my spouse is dismally failing to meet that need. Maybe I have a need for validation. I have a need for, someone to be speaking words of encouragement. And my spouse is failing to do that. However, whatever I'm doing is something that I'm doing in a public space, and there are people who see what I'm doing, they commend me, they encourage me, and they speak well, they speak words that affirm me and validate me. And so my heart finds itself leaning towards those positive comments. I think it's important for us to know that the heart doesn't always go where we tell it to. The mind can only do so much in telling the heart how it's supposed to feel. A lot of times the heart just goes where it's wanted. The heart goes where it's celebrated. So if we're married, it's very important for us to keep our spouse's hearts yearning for us. And how we do that is by actively and intentionally providing for their needs. We must be the number one fan. We must be the one who is looking for how we can make a difference, Can I meet that need? We're constantly on a quest to meet our spouse's need first so that they're not having their needs met elsewhere. And to the one whose needs are being now met, you need to guard your heart. You need to guard your heart because, like I say, it's very easy for the heart to then stray from where you want it to go. Sometimes, one of the things that I spoke about in our earlier shows where I was speaking about infidelity, I spoke about not taking gifts, erecting a boundary of not taking gifts from people, like expensive gifts or weighty gifts from someone other than your spouse. That is a way you are safeguarding yourself, you're guarding your heart. It's the same with compliments. I've had to talk to people and tell them that, look, I appreciate that this is how you see me, this is how you view me, but if you're going to be in my space consistently, you are not allowed to make such and such a comment about me, about how I look, and I've explained that it's a boundary that I've erected for myself. I don't want to then have to think about that over and over and have it eventually or ultimately affect me. So I'm very intentional about safeguarding myself from error. And I'm sharing the same with you. It's very helpful, very beneficial to then not expose yourself, excessively to where you are getting all these compliments and getting all this validation. It's your responsibility to safeguard yourself. You can't say, what am I supposed to do? This person always says, I'm beautiful, they like me. Yeah, you're supposed to tell them that you're not comfortable with that. Can they please not do that? If they're offering you financial assistance and you actually really need it, turn it down, because the gifts makes room in someone's heart. That's what the Bible says. The gift will make room for your gift will even make room for you in the heart of kings, in the presence of kings, because that's what gifts do. Gifts will melt your heart and make room for a person in your life. That's why it's important not to make yourself vulnerable by taking gifts. Don't tell yourself that you're a rock, you can do this. Eventually, your heart is going to start melting, and before you know it, you'll have feelings for someone that you have no business having feelings for. Next question. What do you do if your spouse is very unhappy with your weight and yet you are struggling to lose weight, or to gain weight? Because I've heard of spouses also being unhappy with people being extremely small. Look, my personal opinion about this is that sometimes when we get married, we have no idea what our genes are going to do to us. Contrary to popular belief, you are not big just because you eat a lot and you don't want to go to the gym. A lot of times you eat way less than other people, and you're still bigger than them. I know people who don't eat much and they're heavy people just because of their genes. They are predisposed, And because of that, a person needs to love you not for how you look from the get up and go. It can't be just because of how you look. And I'm not advocating for us to let ourselves go and not try to look better than we look and not try to lose weight. Actually, weight gain is unhealthy. So even for the sake of longevity, how long you're going to be able to be present for those that you claim to love, you need to be at a healthy weight. However, anytime that there's pressure from your spouse for you to lose weight and look a certain way, it's very unhealthy for the marriage. Very, very unhealthy. Because a lot of times, it's not like you are able to just snap a finger and do what you need to do in order to lose weight. And there's so many complications. You could have thyroid issues, you could have so many issues that you're not even aware of. And so to have your spouse who's supposed to partner with you and assist you and be a support for you, be the one who's tearing you down and shaming you because of how you look, is just the worst possible thing. I want to encourage people who are married to be very, very careful about what they say and put your money where your mouth is, really. If my spouse says to me, I need you to jog and da-da-da-da, I'm happy for him to say, love, can we walk together? Can we jog together? Don't be there acting like a prefect, a supervisor. This is what you need to do. What are you doing to assist me to become what you want me to be? So don't just pay for me at the gym. wake up in the morning, jog with me, walk with me, get that personal trainer, don't bring junk into the house. Be the one who is actually actively assisting the process so that I understand that this person is supporting me, not just tearing me down. It is wrong for you to use your mouth to criticize your spouse, to shame them, to make them feel like they need to change something that they're really struggling to change. I liken it a lot to if you married a short man, for instance, and you always complained about how short he is. It would be a very painful thing because how much can he do in order to make himself taller? Unfortunately, even with weight gain, more often than not, the genes are responsible. There's only so much that we can do in order to actually lose the weight. So whichever way, whatever the case may be, you want your spouse to be on your side. You don't want them to be the ones. You can take criticism from people, but it becomes very difficult and painful when your spouse uses his words irresponsibly and they say something that is hurtful. The thing is, you've expressed that I'm too big, you've expressed that, how unattractive I am, but because we're married, we still have to do life together. I still need to be intimate with you. It becomes a problem because I can't unknow what you've told me, and yet somehow I'm supposed to still, be well enough to perform wifely duties. It's a contradiction. It's very important for spouses to be responsible with their words, position themselves where they are assisting and supporting the thing that they want to see, as opposed to just being perched somewhere where you are criticizing. And the last question is how to deal with repeated offenses that have messed up your heart. What do I do if my spouse repeatedly commits the same offense? Well, honestly speaking, there are different prescriptions, I want to call them prescriptions for different situations. I've found that, especially women, we contradict ourselves in that we say, I don't like what he's doing, but we keep reacting the same way and hoping for change. I'm going to make an example. Your spouse does not contribute financially, but every day he finds the electricity lights are on, he finds that there's food on the table, the children are wearing clean clothes, new clothes even, but he's making absolutely no financial contribution, even though he's gainfully employed. I feel like the problem there is the spouse who is not reconciling what they are asking for with their actions. Someone is going to understand what I'm saying today. If you're saying, love, you need to buy electricity, I can't do everything, it's too heavy for me on my own. When the electricity gets shut down or we have no power, don't buy units. Don't buy units. If you don't stay in the dark for those number of days, he will not actually realize that there's a problem here. And you have facilitated that. You contributed to that. There are times when I've had to take a very extreme stand, and that's the only reason that I've enjoyed the change, that I've enjoyed, because I was willing to pay the price. Paying the price can sometimes look like, you know what, love, I love you, but because two must walk together when they're in agreement, and we can't seem to agree on this repeatedly, especially if it's something as big as, they're having affairs and whatever. You can't put up with that and think your heart will be healed. It won't be healed. At some point, you need to let them know that I will not accept it. And then your actions must align with your words. If you need to move out of the house, then that's what you're going to do until you receive enough counseling that can assure you that he has had not just a change of heart, but a change of mind as well. He is adequately equipped to come back and behave differently from the way he was behaving in the past. So don't accept repeated behavior that is very hurtful. It's not right for you to do that. Then there's other repeated behavior that I personally feel you need to accept. In marriage, you'll discover that you are married for long, and there are things that your spouse will do that just, you'll do better adapting to the fact that, you know, this guy struggles with this, you know. It's a pity that I can't state exactly which ones those are, but I've already given an example of someone who's probably not as romantic as you'd like them to be. You can stomach that. Find ways around that instead of letting yourself be offended all the time. My husband and I struggled with timekeeping. I'm very particular about time. I want us to be there on time. My husband wants it, but he struggles. It's an area of, I want to call it defeat, but maybe that's too extreme, of struggle in his life. Somehow he just manages, he wakes up earlier than everyone, he's very hardworking, but somehow he's going to get delayed and he won't make it to events on time. And I would feel ashamed because sometimes we're officiating a wedding, for instance, and then we're the last people to come and we've wrecked the wedding, you know, because people came on time and the officiator wasn't there and it was too much for me. How I handled that is I decided that I would never, ever go to an event with my husband in one car because I just wanted to separate myself from late coming. So I will drive there, I will be there much earlier than he is, and when he comes, I'm so happy to see him, and we can be in love because I'm not angry and agitated because I got here on time, which is what I desired. When I didn't have my own car, I would actually ask someone to give me a ride because I didn't want my heart to be messed up because of his repeated behavior. But what I learned then is that just taking that stand helped my husband. Because every time he actually wants to go to an event with me, believe it or not, he's ready on time early. It means when he's ready on time, I know that it's important to him that he arrive at that event with me. But instead of being offended, I looked for a way around this thing that he is struggling with. So there are things that you shouldn't allow your heart to be messed up about. Just find how, you know, just give up on the notion of traveling together. You know, it's nice when you're a couple to go to places together, but I gave up on that and I accepted the fact that it's not going to happen. And now I actually have what I desired. I have a man who wants to go to places with me, and therefore he generally will be early and on time because he wants us to travel together. So I hope this has been beneficial for you. I really believe that the questions that the people asked are questions that were relevant even to other people's lives. So I trust that this is something that was very beneficial, encouraging, and enlightening for everyone who listened. Until next time, God bless you.